The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, I'm Lauren Achille, and these are your top stories to 3 o'clock. Warmer weather on the way will put BCIT's wildlife management to the test in the upcoming months. Reporter Grace Miller finds out how BCIT's environmentally friendly pest control alternative helps to keep the campus clean.
Where are my kids at?
BCIT's integrated pest management professional, Fernando Gradado, trains critters on campus to revert to natural food sources rather than garbage. He says the biggest part of his job is learning why animals do what they do to teach them better alternatives.
The more you try with them, the more they're going to respect you, earn their respect first, and then you can start kind of teaching them, hey, this is what you could do. They're really independent creatures. They're not gonna be your pets. They're going to be your friends.
He has built relationships with several crows he calls his kids. He notes that some have even flown the nest of Burnaby Campus in search of better food sources. Grace Miller, BCIT's The Crow.
One man is dead after a house fire in Surrey. Police are assisting the fire department with investigating the blaze. The man's body was found on Sunday, but his identification has yet to be confirmed. RCMP say they don't believe the cause of the fire is suspicious, and anyone with information is asked to call Surrey RCMP. Police are investigating the discovery of a grenade in Vancouver. Police detonated a bomb that was found buried in Olympic Village Sunday morning. Police issued a press release saying a woman found what she thought to be a suspicious-looking package while digging in her community garden. According to the release, the grenade appeared to be active. The amount of time the grenade had been sitting underground is unknown, but it was safely detonated by police and is no longer a risk to the public. The Parker Lake wildfire is now 1.5 kilometers away from Fort Nelson. A seasonal emergency preparedness update was held this morning. Bowen Ma, Minister of Emergency Management, said in the update that about 4,700 people have been put on evacuation order as of 7 a.m. The fire behavior specialist, Ben Bogian, spoke in a briefing last night what to expect today and tomorrow.
As winds pick up overnight on May 12th and extend through the day on May 13th, it will create an extreme fire behavior environment that will challenge current control lines and pose a safety concern to our wildfire personnel and emergency services. On May 14th, we are expecting to see a reduction in fire behavior as wind speeds reduce, but there's still going to be a threat in the area until we get some rain.
The Parker Lake fire has grown to nearly 53 square kilometers. The city of Lytton continues to feel the effects of the forest fire that burned through their town in 2021. Nicholas Hauka tells us that members of the community are working together and preparing to mitigate any future disasters.
Residents of Lytton may have been physically separated from their homes, but that hasn't stopped them from working together to resurrect their community, according to councillor and former chief of the Lytton First Nation, Byron Spinks. Working with fellow residents, Spinks has watched his community tackle adversity, not run away from it. Residents are determined to be able to take matters into their own hands if another disaster ever hits.
We've become pretty good planners in results of those disasters. I mean, our emergency health management services is really getting organized. They're recognizing the Fire Smart program. They're recognizing other opportunities that they can utilize to minimize the impact of any disasters coming into our community again.
Spinks says this fully qualified and trained volunteer group will be able to respond much faster to future fires in Lytton. Nicholas Hauka, BCIT's The Crow.
Joining us now is reporter Nicholas Hauka. Nick, can you talk about how the fire evacuations have impacted Lytton residents?
Yeah, Lauren, it was a really traumatic experience for everyone involved. Everything happened very fast. 1 hour residents were told to be on watch for fire, and then the next second, in a matter of about 20 minutes, they were all having to evacuate the building. Families were displaced from their homes for long periods of time due to their homes actually burning down in the fire, and many residents still haven't been able to move back.
So what is the aftermath in Lytton since the fire?
While the community overcame adversity together, they actually started a Fire Smart program. What that entails is a bunch of community members, over actually 160, are now fully qualified and trained in first aid and fire response. So they are now able to help put out fires before BC wildfire gets there.
Thank you, Nick. Legislators with the governing Saskatchewan Party are banned from taking part in Regina's Pride Parade next month. Riviera Bonneau, Queen City Pride organizer, says the ban is a result of the province passing a law that prevents children under 16 from changing their names or pronouns at school without parental consent. She says the Saskatchewan Party applied to be in the parade.
We don't feel like they're our allies at this point, so it felt very contradictory to have them try to take part in our parade. So we all felt a little frustrated and confused and a little ick about it. You know, to be like, you can't pretend you're our ally, join our parade, do this whole thing while actively hurting members of our community.
Some of these politicians have taken part in these parades in Regina and Saskatoon, but this year is not the case. A new report says Canadian banks provided $104 billion US in fossil fuel funding last year despite the urgent need to reduce emissions. Michelle Zadikian from the Canadian Press has this story.
The latest Banking on Climate Chaos report says the total includes $28 billion US from RBC to place it 7th globally and $24 billion US from Scotiabank to rank 10th. BMO had its outright lowest year of financing since 2016. CIBC, TD, and RBC all had their lowest financing year outside of pandemic year 2020. The reduced funding comes as oil sands development slows. The Canadian Bankers Association says Canadian banks understand their important role in helping to lead an orderly transition to a low-carbon future. Michelle Zadikian, The Canadian Press, Toronto.
A new study says less common cancers are on the rise this year. The Canadian Medical Association Journal says melanoma, liver, and kidney disease are growing. Darren Brenner, author of the study, says the rise of melanoma is alarming.
We know that it's heavily related to ultraviolet radiation exposure, so sun and indoor tanning exposure. And so we know that we need to work a bit harder with personal and policy efforts to try to reduce how much people are exposed to ultraviolet radiation in Canada.
Brenner adds that breast cancer rates are stable with more women surviving because of early detection screening programs. Israel is marking Memorial Day in the shadow of the Gaza war. Many Israelis are outraged at how the government has handled matters in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks by Hamas. Jordan Miller from ABC News has the details.
Israeli leaders heckled at Memorial Day ceremonies across the country, anger cutting through the grief over October 7th. "You took my children," an Israeli shouted at Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister widely blamed for failures leading up to Hamas's surprise attack. Signs reading, "Their blood is on your hands," greeted Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and the visit of far-right leader Itamar Ben-Gvir to a cemetery prompted fistfights and accusations of abandoning the 128 hostages. Jordana Miller, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Michael Bublé will be joining Snoop Dogg this fall as a new judge on The Voice. Bublé has become the first Canadian to be a judge for this singing competition. The premiere of the season has not been released, but you can keep an eye out for it this fall. Now let's take a look at the weather. Today will be cloudy with a high of 19 degrees and a low of 11. This week will be warmer as the sun will be peeking out later today and throughout the rest of the week. Expect cloudy and sunny weather, not like last weekend, which was nice, but we will get that warm weather when it reaches to 21 degrees as an average throughout the rest of the week. These have been your top stories to 3 o'clock. I'm Lorna Chili, and thank you so much for listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
This is sports on 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Sheridan with your sports update to 3:15. Canucks defensemen Nikita Zadorov and Carson Soucy were involved in an incident with the Edmonton Oilers after the final buzzer of last night's game. Soucy hit star player Connor McDavid after he retaliated, hitting Soucy's leg. Zadorov then cross-checked McDavid from behind. Zadorov is receiving a $5,000 fine, and Soucy will be suspended for one playoff game. The Western Lacrosse Association season is about to begin. The new Westminster Salmon Bellies and Burnaby Lakers will kick off the home opener at Queen's Park Arena on May 23rd. No exhibition games have been scheduled, but practices are in full swing this week. 7 teams across Metro Vancouver and Vancouver Island will compete for a spot at the Mann Cup Finals in August. A female golfing tournament will be held in Maple Ridge on May 23rd at Golden Years Golf Club. The event is run by She Golfs, which organizes events for women to play sports together. Half the proceeds will go to Kids Sports Tri-Cities, which gives kids free and discounted sporting equipment to be able to afford their sport. The owner of She Golfs, Christy Roberts, says the tournaments are designed for women to connect with one another through golf.
And I know like a lot of women are very uncomfortable or maybe a little bit intimidated on golfing portrayed as a man's game, I guess. The idea is to host tournaments and social events like around other surrounding areas of like Vancouver so that women of all areas can connect with other women in golf. And it's not just women who are like really good, or it's women of all skill level and of all age.
All eyes are on 17-year-old swimmer Summer McIntosh at the Canadian Olympics and Paralympic swimming trials today in Toronto. McIntosh is the reigning world champion for the 200-meter butterfly and 400-meter medley. She competed in the 400-meter freestyle prelims today and is currently sitting in first out of 60 people. Finals will take place this evening. McIntosh is Canada's top medal hope for the upcoming Paris Games. Toronto FC lost 3-2 to New York FC in a match that featured 7 yellow cards, 1 red card, and a post-game scrum. The aggressive game stemmed from a halftime incident that took place against New York in March. Allegedly, the New York coach Nick Cushing punched a 19-year-old Toronto player in the tunnel during halftime. Cushing is denying the allegations, but Toronto coach John Herdman is standing with his team.
You know, the honest information that was relayed back from the team and from the young player was that there'd been that altercation. And, you know, that's, you know, as a coach, I've got to believe my players and support and back my players.
Team Canada Hockey won the gold medal for the Paralympic Games. They beat the U.S. after losing to them for 3 straight years. Canada's captain, Tyler McGregor, says the big win in Calgary was special as they reclaimed the gold after 7 years.
It's the first time that we've ever been able to win on home ice, and it hits different being able to sing your national anthem, especially with the road that we've been on the past number of years.
The NBA lottery draft results are in, and the Atlanta Hawks are taking the top spot. Dave Ferry from the Associated Press has more on why the Hawks' win was unexpected and who had the best chance at taking the top spot.
Hawks GM Landry Fields called it a shock when his team received the number 1 selection, weeks after the franchise completed a 36-46 season and lost in the playoff round. The Wizards and Pistons had the best chances of landing the top spot at 14%.
Toronto can advance to the first ever Professional Women's Hockey League Championships if they beat Minnesota tonight. Toronto takes the lead of the best-of-5 series 2-0 and has yet to surrender a goal. That's your sports update this afternoon. I'm Ryan Sheridan for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikikane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikikane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.